Nobody's innocent. Justice? It's an illusion. Uncertainty is the only sure thing. Uncertainty creates fear, and fear creates money. Green Harbor. Just another urban labyrinth. The El Dorado. Full of fear to cash in on. Gangs rush in to get their hands on that gold. But those days are over now. My name is Brad Hawk. I'm a professional. I do things my way. I answer to no one.
2005 certainly brought quite a bit of 3D action beat-em-ups, between Spike Out Battle Street, which I've already reviewed years ago, and some other ones I haven't reviewed, mainly Beat Down Fist of Vengeance and the original Yakuza, at least if you lived in Japan, since it didn't come out in PAL and NTSC territories, more specifically North America, until 2006. But this one always intrigued me since I was a kid, given who made it. I remember looking at this game's website back in the day, but it wasn't until about 12 years after it came out when I actually played it for the first time, the same year I got back into retro collecting, and I got it for a good price. Today's game is Urban Reign. This is a 2005 action/fighting/beat-em-up game developed and published by Namco. The game was exclusively released for the PS2 on September 13, 2005 for North America, September 29, 2005 for Japan, and February 9, 2006 for Europe. Build is from the makers of Tekken and Soul Calibur, even though the latter team seemingly had more involvement from what I could find. I'm assuming this game came to be as some sort of collaboration between the teams during downtime before the next-gen entries for Tekken and Soul Calibur came to be, because it kind of feels like that. This is only just my speculation though, as I couldn't find much in terms of actual development history. And despite what I mentioned earlier, there is definitely some fun to be had with this game. Urban Reign takes place in the fictional US city of Green Harbor. State unknown. Crime and gang warfare is on the rise. Mayor William Borden announces an initiative to mitigate this, installing security cameras in over 2,000 locations and partitioning parts of the city via large gates. You can't rely on higher-ups to handle all that slipped through the cracks, though. Insert Brawler for Hire Brad Hawk, voiced by Steve Blum. He's brought in by Chinatown's boss, Shun-Ying Lee, as she's getting crosshair fists aimed at her by the Zaps led by Dwayne. They think she offed one of their members, KG, who we see get beat up and kidnapped at the start of the game. Brad is brought in to help beat up the gangs in an effort to find out what happened to KG. Sooner, though, once the truth comes out, more sinister criminals reveal themselves and cause further mayhem on Green Harbor. Once they get dealt with, an organized crime syndicate known as the Mushin Kai comes in. They want to take over the city, and they possibly have connections to city officials. Yeah, this story seems to unfold like crazy, but the explanation is rather simple. At least the gameplay is fun in parts. Urban Reign has several modes of play. Free mode allows you to play any mission with any character you want as long as they aren't enemies you are facing. Challenge mode is basically survival mode. You'll keep fighting enemies for as long as possible until you run out of health. But in order to get those modes, and two of the bonus characters, more on that in a moment, you'll have to go through the game's main story mode. The main story is spread out via 100 missions. They aren't that long on their own, but combined they'll take you about 4 to 7 hours. When you select a mission from the map screen, you're given a briefing and a goal of what to do. As you complete missions, you'll earn ability points which you can spend to make Brad a stronger fighter. As you move further along, you'll be able to use some of the other characters as partners when brawling, and you're going to need their support when you can, because the game really picks up later on. So what about the actual fighting itself? Well, it's actually very in-depth. I haven't seen a combat system this deep in a game like this since Die Hard Arcade, and its sequels, Dynamite Deca, EX, and so on and so forth. You have your basic strike attacks seen in other games like this, and grapples for throws, but it's not just one combo you hit over and over. While you'll use the main strike combo quite a bit, there are other combos. Some will launch your opponents into the air, which you can continue your combo for to get massive amounts of damage. Some combos also target specific areas of the body. You'll need to keep this in mind, as some missions will have you target your opponent's lower or upper body. Also, if you keep attacking opponents in specific parts, they can get stunned, which will give you a chance to taunt your opponent, in which they'll straggle to you right for you to lay a hurtin' on them. You also have dash with grapple variant attack and diving attacks. You can also ground strike and grapple in addition to midair grapples. You can do double attacks with your partner while teaming with them for more damage when timing things right, on top of being able to command your partner to help you. You can also run up walls and do attacks off of them. Finally, you have special arts. As you attack successfully, the white bar below your health meter will fill. When it has enough, you can pull off a successful combo that will do more damage. You can also use special arts to give you a special ability for a bit, like more damaging attacks. But wait! There's more! In addition to your fist-to-fist action, you can also use weapons as well. Clubs, baseball bats, pipes, swords, etc. You can strike enemies with them and throw them at them. Occasionally, when knocking an enemy down, they'll drop a recovery item for health or special arts gauge. Other non-weapon attacks include a double attack, which allows you to hit 2 enemies at once if they surround you, and pressing circle to auto-target several enemies close to you without activating target lock. Lastly, you have some defensive moves to help you out. Hitting the enemy before they hit you to counter. You can dodge and deflect at the right time. You could super deflect, where you can deflect in a stun state, break out of grapples, running and dodging an attack, and pressing square at the right time before you hit the ground to recover. I know, it's a lot. I wasn't kidding when I said this was in depth. Thankfully, the controls make things easier to grasp. Taunt with L2, pick up items with L1, the D-pad and left analog stick helps you move and target specific body regions, R2 issues partner command, R1 target locks, triangle grapples, circle strikes, cross lets you run, and square lets you dodge/deflect. You can use the attack button in various combos with the analog sticks like I said earlier, and it's very satisfying to pull off. It's almost like the long combos in Tekken and Soul Calibur, only less complicated. Switching targets when necessary is easy to pull off. Hold R1 and use the right analog stick. And the camera is easy to control. It also does a good job of following you and the action around you, and can be reset if things get out of whack. It's not good in multiplayer team-ups because it only follows player 1, meaning player 2 must be careful to not get out of frame. Otherwise, everything else works as it should, though it may take some time to get used to some of the game's more complicated moves, but they don't always need to be used all the time, just on the harder stages. The graphics are also fine. They aren't going to be a system pusher, but the art style here works for starters. The UI and menus have this gritty city look to them, which fits the game's tone fine enough. Environments also fit the look, even if they aren't the prettiest or extremely detailed. Main character models look fine enough, and the designs of them are pretty cool, with more details to boot. Though the generic gang members do tend to blend into the background a bit, but they are just lowly generic gang members in the grand scheme of all. A lot of the animations are good, though many of them are recycled from Tekken. You'll recognize various move stances, like some characters use Steve Fox's stance from Tekken, and when Shun Ying equips a sword, her default animation stance resembles Shang Hua's stance in Soul Calibur. But I guess it makes sense to a degree given who made it. That's not the only other similarity. Some characters do use similar moves. Shun Ying's hand fighting style resembles Ling Xiaoyu's style, and Karonashi's moveset is heavily based on both Jin Kazama and Kazuya Mishima. Hey, at least it fits and does give some familiarity for those coming from Tekken and Soul Calibur. Sound is pretty on point as well. Punches sound pretty impactful, as do kicks and other weapon strikes, and they sound like they would hurt a lot, especially when throwing them up against walls and on the ground. Menu sound effects are cool, and all other sounds sound like they should. The music has a grunge/rock feeling to it, and also fits the game's tone as well while you beat people up. You might get 1 or 2 tracks stuck in your head. The voice acting is fine, but it definitely has that mid-2000s cheese to it, in a good way. The cast has quite a few noteworthy people in it. In addition to Steve Blum, David Lodge, aka Jiraiya, Crispin Freeman, and Yuri Lowenthal voice other major characters, while others such as Bo Billingslea, Darren Norris, and Liam O'Brien voice generic gang members that you fight. Everyone does a fine enough job regardless of the cheese. Once you beat story mode, you can run through challenge and free mode. Beating all missions of specific chapters with a specific grade will unlock bonus characters. One round of free mode unlocks Martial Law from Tekken, and one round of challenge mode unlocks Paul Phoenix from Tekken. Neat little bonus. You can also use free mode to play the story cooperatively with a friend, which is a plus. Urban Reign is a surprisingly enjoyable game with a combat system that looks simple on the surface, but it's really in-depth and can be fun to master. It also controls well, looks fine, sounds well, and has plenty of bonus content to keep you coming back. However, it does tend to recycle animations in some parts from Tekken and Soul Calibur. The camera doesn't always work well in co-op multiplayer, and the game can really ramp up in some later missions, leading to frustrating experiences where some missions will take you a few tries. You can adjust the difficulty though, which helps. Despite the flaws, I can recommend this game as it's very fun to pull insane combos and other crazy moves off. Sadly, the prices on this one are starting to get into the $40 range, so try to hunt it down for a deal if you can. I give Urban Reign a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, click the big red button below to subscribe. Check out the other links in the description for more cool stuff, and check out the playlist on screen for more content. See you in the next video.